felt deeply fulfilled. Like I really
Well, I don't think
did a
other
thing.
people heard you or like didn't, I don't know, they didn't catch
Who's
it
gonna
because it
know
was,
Charmander unless you had kids who played Pokemon, you know?
well, just the way you slid it in, you were just like Charmander, you know?
Charmander's my favorite.
Yeah, it was so good. Oh man. Anyways,
Cute. Well,
um, so what I did is I just printed off a bunch of questions.
oh
And
yeah, I
so
forgot
I
to
have
send you
like
something.
beginner level, intermediate, and advanced. And then, but what do you focus on in your business? Because what's the difference between, oh, are you recording this?
Yeah, I am. So,
Okay,
let me do just a little preamble or something.
thank you.
Hey, Erin, I'm so happy that you agreed to come on and talk to me about owner financing and all this crazy stuff that I talk about over here at Note Queen. And it's so valuable because I know that the things we're going to talk about are probably in the minds of a lot of people that listen to this channel or listen to me yaw on month in, month out. And sometimes I just don't remember what it's like to be at the very beginning. So I really appreciate your time. And you guys, this is Erin. How do you pronounce your last name?
Sour.
Sauer. Erin
Hmm.
Sauer. She winning your horse's heart. Go follow her. She is super funny. And if you're in the horse world at all, she knows what she's doing. Plus, she's hilarious. So we kind of connected through a group. I think through our various senses of humor, mainly like when I told you why I was wearing a hat is because
I thought you were out feed the pigs. I
yeah,
don't
you
know.
thought I was slopping pigs, and I told you, oh, I just finished chemo, and then you're like, oh, sorry, and I go, sorry, yeah, no, just kidding. But anyway, I think we were bonded since that moment. But
Yeah, I think so.
anyway, so yeah, let's just talk. Like when you hear me on our other group calls and saying different things, what comes to your mind? What questions do you have? I just want this super beginner, don't know a thing about what you're talking about combo. So it's just gonna be free flowing. Of course, I forgot to even send you questions, so I apologize for that,
That's
but
all right. I got plenty. And they come out as I hear things. So I'm like, wait, hold on.
yeah,
Um,
okay,
you
perfect.
know, one of the main things that I'm just hearing from a lot of people, I mean, I kind of want to touch on this subject just because it's one of the main it's one of the main issues I'm hearing from the younger generation is that we're never going to be able to buy a house. Okay, so what's your opinion on that? And why are they saying that? And what would be your solution for someone who's in their, mid 20s to early 30s?
Well, number one is that I can completely understand why they're saying that. I was just listening to a presentation yesterday where this person was actually a financial manager of millions of dollars in Canada. And it's worse up there, but we have very similar things here where prices, because of the manipulation of the government of meddling and trying to deal like, oh, everybody needs a house, and then during COVID nobody has to pay, you can stay but not pay, and now you have these loan modifications that are completely ridiculous. So it's skewed the market so much that um, prices went crazy because of monetary policy, and things basically doubled once they injected all that cheap money. So assets, hard assets like real estate, like the stock market, equities, everything, even gold and silver are pumping now too. It's not because they're worth more, but it's that the fiat dollars are worth less. But in particular, it really got skewed with housing. And so a lot of investment dollars went into like, where else can you make 10% per year? Doubling, tripling your money if you bought early COVID, pre-COVID. Um, I mean, there's pre-COVID housing and post-COVID housing, and it's a big problem. I believe it was orchestrated to get everybody upside down because now you got people that can't even get out for what they bought during 21, 22. Um, so I understand it and it makes sense because if you could get 1 or 2% financing, maybe you can afford to pay double the price. But if you have to pay 6 or 7%, there's no way you can pay that rate plus double the price of housing. So it is a problem that I think this disparity of wealth um, has to get solved some way, sometime. And I think it'll probably be pretty uncomfortable when it does happen. But at the same time, like the boomers won't be happy, but it'll give the next generations a chance at home ownership and creating households and doing what you're supposed to do is multiply and replenish the earth, get married,
So what do you see
so
happening then?
so right now, I would agree with you. If all you can do is get an FHA loan, 3.5% down, um, at 6 or 7%, it's not a good time to buy. Now the people that are buying, the young people, they're getting help usually from family members. So in some cases, the family members can just write a check and they buy it's an early inheritance. In other ways, they're helping just with a down payment because a lot of the parents, they don't want to ruin their own financial future to help their kid, but they do want to help their kid. So a lot of times if they can help with a 10% down payment to get a 10, then we can go after properties uh, that have a lot of equity, and we're not asking the bank for a loan at all. So there's over $30 trillion in equity. A lot of properties owned free and clear. There's no mortgage on them forever. The boomers. I heard this statistic that people over 60 years old own and controls like 80% of the real estate. And most of that's the equity, right? So you got the older people that have all this equity. And yeah, in the last few years, it's doubled. It's been a phantom appreciation. Oh, all of a sudden my portfolio is worth double. It's not like you didn't do anything brilliant. You just you just wrote it. But those same people they're like living in these golden sarcophaguses where it's like it's paid off, but they can barely even pay the taxes on it, or they have rental properties and they're sick and tired of renting. So a young person without help, I would say don't buy right now. Wait for the prices to come down. And I think they will. I don't know that it's going to be a big drop, but I think there'll probably be a slow grind over the next few years. In some markets, depends on where you are. In some markets, like in Florida, prices are in free fall. In Dallas, in Austin, Texas, those are dropping fast. And then there's still some areas where median home prices is still inching up, but the market's kind of frozen. There's not that many transactions happening, and this was like right before the crash before, where it's like it's cresting, it hasn't started to fall yet, but they will. Prices have to come down because even with rate cuts, they saw this in Canada, even with rate cuts dropping in half, it was too late. The buyers are still like, no, we're still not going to pay these prices. We still can't afford it. And so if you have help though, or it's more for an investment, I would say go after all the property you can get, leveraging this hidden 30+ trillion of equity. You're not going to deal with the banks at all. So, because and this sounds weird, I haven't had a bank loan in almost 27 years now, and I do a lot of real estate, and most of it's not cash buying, very very rarely. So I get owner terms or I offer terms. That means I'm the bank to someone who can't get a bank loan, and they pay me every month. And when I buy, they're the bank for me and I pay them. And they're lending me their equity, the value that they have stuck, the dollars stuck inside that house, that becomes something they can lend. It's not like they write you a check from their bank account. but they can lend that value and they get the same documents, the same note and deed of trust that you would sign with a bank. You sign those same documents just with mom and pop people. And when I can get owner financing, I almost don't care what price I pay, as long as I get the terms that allow it to say cash flow. What if I paid $100,000 more than the property was worth, but I only had to put 5% down? It was 3% fully amortized over 50 years or something. Well, I'm making $1,500 a month positive cash flow. So what do I care? So it just really depends where someone's
So
at.
how would you find those people though? How would you find them?
They're all over the place. Well, one good example is if you're renting and it's not an apartment, right? If you're renting a house, find out if they own it free and clear. Most likely they do. Like I said, people over 60 who are trying to simplify their lives own 80% of the equity, real estate equity, right? So that's a lot of money sitting there. So I would ask, that's how I got a house 10 years ago when we first moved from California to Nevada. We were renting a place because we didn't know the city. So we just flew in sight unseen with all our stuff, and then found out that we loved the house, found out they owned it free and clear, found out, yeah, they did want to sell it. And so it took us a few months to hammer out the terms, but they decided to be the bank for us. They took a down payment and we paid them every month. And I think the rate was 5%. So the thing that people don't realize is that these mom and pop deals, the older people that own these properties, they are often willing to give you better interest rates than the banks will give you. Oh,
Yeah.
well, the banks are going at 6 and 7. And it used to be in the old days, if you're doing owner financing and taking that extra risk, so to speak, you would charge a point or two above. If the banks are at 5, you're going to be at 7. Now it's the opposite. If you want your price, you have to drop the interest rate. And usually they're happy to do that because they defer capital gains. And plus, what else are they going to do with the money? They're going to stick it in 3 or 4% in a T-bill or an insurance annuity. They can offer you that same rate, which is 2, 3 percentage points less. And then you get a deal that works, right? There was a duplex that I bought. My mom, she just really wanted to own a duplex before she died. And so I go, okay. So number one, you can start, if you're renting, ask your landlord. Okay. That's one of the easiest things to do. The next thing we can talk about that too, which is, okay, I sent out in my city, it's not that big. I sent out 1,000 postcards to people who owned investment properties free and clear. And I got one that called back and said, buy my property. It was a duplex. And I said, well, here's my price. And he goes, no, I really need this price. Oh, wow. That's more than I thought I wanted to pay. Well, if I could get you that, would you carry it for me? Would you let me pay? Do you need all the money at once? Can you give me a little time to get you paid? And he goes, well, I don't know, maybe. And I go, hey, what's the best investment that you have going on right now? Like if you took the money from this sale after you wrote a big fat check to the IRS, what are you going to do with the money? Well, I'll probably put it in my insurance annuity. I said, well, what's it paying you? 4%. I said, so if I can match your best investment alternative, you think you could give me a little time to get you paid in full? And he goes, yeah. Okay. Now he needed a bigger down payment than I personally had, right, in the bank account right at that moment. But my mom had funds that were sitting idle. So she put the down payment and then we did all the upgrade and made it into this Airbnb. And so you can collaborate with people like that, where one party has the down payment, the other person can manage it and, put it together. And this is not I don't usually talk about it as much. Sometimes you don't even have to come out of pocket that much because someone else has a loan that, whatever, they lost their job, they got divorced, whatever happened, they can't make their payment anymore, but it's like at 2.5%, 30-year fixed. Well, someone else can make that payment. And if they can take over that payment, then they can give you a little bit more, even though you might not have any equity. You might even be upside down, but someone can give you 5 grand to walk away if they get to use 2.5% 30-year fixed financing. Right. So there's a lot of ways for people, if they don't have equity, they could leave their loan in place for a while and also do that. But there's no way around it. It's just crazy out there. The prices are no bueno, but people who are like, I can sell this and move into this, or for me, if I can, I'll buy a property that's overpriced as long as I get my terms, right? As long as they make the payment and the builders are doing this anyway, right? The builders are buying down rates for people down to 5%. They get them all sorts of concessions and kickbacks and all this other thing. So the retail market, the existing home sales, they have no idea how far they're not even competing. The builders are serious about getting the product moved. So unless some seller is willing to do a loan at less than what the banks are offering, they have to drop their price, right? But
Yeah, so, I love that idea of talking to the owner if they own the house outright. And you said a lot of those are boomers. It immediately made me think though, because my dad's a boomer and I have to help him check his voicemail on his cell phone sometimes. So there's no way he would know how to do that. So when you're talking to the average boomer that doesn't have real estate knowledge, how would you approach them and explain it in a way that would make them comfortable and not feel like they're going to get scammed somehow?
yeah, that's a great question. Is this his own home or his an investment property?
His own home.
Okay, well, as long as he needs to live there, you can't really, like, if he's getting ready to sell it, right? And let's say he doesn't need the funds from the sale of the house. The thing is, the tax advantages are not there because you got unless it's a really expensive house, because you got your homeowner's 121 exclusion. So it's not like he's going to have a big capital gains liability like someone who owns an investment property. But still, if he wanted, or you didn't want to have to fix up the place, but you still want to sell it quickly and easily for the highest possible price, you can offer terms. So basically, it's the same. That's why I created that little landlord liberation thing. And I made it to landlords because that's where the capital gains and all that. But it goes for anybody with a property that they just want the income. More people need income more than they need big chunk of change, because then what are they going to do with it, right?
Yeah.
They're going to stick it in the bank and whatever, or stock market uh, that's volatile. So when people really think about it, so basically it's run through a title company and an escrow company just the same as any other transaction. So if they have never heard of it, it's basically like saying, hey, how would you like to basically invest in real estate or create like an annuity for yourself um, without having to deal with like tenants or repairs or property taxes? What if someone else took all that away? They did all the property taxes, all the insurance, and all the maintenance. You're never going to get a call to do anything, but you just sit back and collect a monthly check. That's most people. I mean, why do you think banks get rich? They
Yeah.
lend money. Those, in that case, the banks don't lend money they don't even have. They print it
Yep.
in thin air and then they earn interest on it. But in this case, someone can take the equity they've built up in their house and turn that into cash flow plus interest, right? And so it's a great way, especially if someone's in a really competitive market where now, hey, guess what? There's 10 houses on the block for sale. Well, how are you going to stand out? What's the best amenity that you can offer? It's financing, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what's holding people up. So that's why I like, let's figure out how the boomers unwind out of their management intensive real estate without putting everything into the stock market. how do they create the income they need? And okay, they're going to get their price, but maybe they can go like, yeah, I could only get 3 or 4% at the bank anyway. So yeah, let this young person who they have to have a decent down payment. There's no way around that unless there's, you know, them and there's some other collateral of some kind or reputation equity or something. But like if the parents can help get at least a 10% down payment together, that's a completely respectable type of transaction that balances the risk and reward of both parties. So here are the old people who need out but need income. The young people who need a break, they can, if they can get below like half the going rate, then
Yeah.
it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Then the price doesn't matter. And I right now, I would buy as much owner finance stuff as I could get, even if it was overpriced, because I know how the movie plays out. There are so
Right.
many advantages by positioning in this way, that that yeah, the invisible benefits, um, are why I say that. If I didn't know what I know about the whole market and how the note business works and how things play out over decades generally, then I would probably say, heck no, I'm not buying anything right now. But I
Yeah.
would buy as much owner finance as long as I get terms. If I get the interest rate and the payments and the length that I need, the price is just not that important.
Yeah. So you had mentioned 10% down payment. I've always been told 20. Has that changed?
20's best
Uh-huh.
because that's conventional underwriting. And the reason that 20% is because when statistically speaking, once someone puts 20% down, the risk of default goes down off a cliff.
What, really?
Yeah. So someone who puts 20% plus
Interesting.
down, you will almost never have a default.
Wow.
But when you start taking less down, but it's standard in our industry, in the owner finance industry, for an owner occupied property, that if they can put at least 10% down, that is considered reasonably good underwriting, as long as they have decent credit, they can prove their ability to pay, um, and they're not upside down from day one. It's not like you can sell them a 100,000 house for 500 and take 10% down, because now that they're upside down from day one, that's not going to fly. So there's a few rules in there, but minimum 10. But if someone can come up with 20% down, they have something else they can sell. They're not asking for 500,000 from their parents. Maybe they're asking for, can you give us 80 grand to help with our 20? Then we got 20% down. If you got 20% down, there is no reason, unless you live in a crazy market, that you cannot find someone who owns their property free and clear, willing to sell to you.
Okay.
There's gonna be somebody, or a really cheap loan that they'll let you take over for a few years, right?
Oh, okay.
There is
Awesome.
no reason. And that's the whole, my thing is just getting the awareness out there, because everybody, even professionals that have been long in the market, they only think in terms of banks, and I
Yeah.
only think in terms of no banks. I always see, if I want to buy a piece of property, the seller's always my bank until proven otherwise, right?
Okay.
But if I pay cash, then I need a better price. But if they'll give me terms, and a lot of them will, not everyone, but sometimes it takes a while. Like I was going back to the place we rented here in Nevada when we first moved. It took him 6 months to get his head around it. And he asked his wife, which was the hardest one, then his attorney and his accountant. And everyone said, yeah, this is totally how it goes. It's totally fine. It's totally legal. Ask for this much down and blah, 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 blah. And it's not a weird thing. They were thinking like, I've never heard of this. This sounds like it's,
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like kind of with my dad, he'd be like, this is a scam or this isn't something that people do.
no,
You always go
the
through the
funny
bank.
thing is it has been around. And in fact, before we all got addicted to Wall Street, I don't know, the last, what, 33 decades or so, owner financing was how a lot of property changed hands. In some parts of the country, it was like a handshake and between neighbors, and like, you give me the down payment, you give me the payments, and we're good. And so all that is private people understanding that they can be the bank. And like I said, when it's an investment property, it saves them a ton of capital gains, right? No, they can earn interest on money they would have otherwise sent to the IRS. Now, how cool is it to earn interest on the IRS's money?
Yeah.
People like that idea, and they need cash flow. Otherwise, what are you going to do with it? Stick it in the bank? Just
Yeah.
the stock market? What are you going to do? If someone says, oh, I'm going to double my money because if I put it here, then I'll do that, then do it. But most people don't know what they're going to do, and they need income, and they're worried about outliving their principal. They need it to earn interest. And so why not earn interest as good or better than you can on a CD, a treasury, or a real estate insurance annuity? Why not make it secured by a property you actually know? If the stock market tanks, you can't take over that company and run it and get your money back out. But if a property goes bad, you know how to get that back. You keep everything, you keep all the money you collected, and you sell it again. Okay, so it's a lot, as long as it's set up fairly and correctly for with an eye to protect both parties. Um, to me, it's the best unplug from Wall Street sort of thing you could have. It's farmers market, local, free range, non-GMO financing,
Yeah.
It's like mom and pop deals. Younger people don't like me to say mom and pop because they're like, that's old people. Who's that? And I go, well, who do you think owns all the property? I
Yeah.
mean, shoot, you better hope that you can turn one of those mom and pops into your surrogate rich uncle and get them to give you a break. It
Yeah.
will work for them because they don't want to manage property anymore and they need income for retirement, but they can't be on their hands and knees taking 3 a.m. phone calls for the toilets, right? So, um, and the young people need a break to
Yeah.
start, to get in somewhere. That if there's no down payment help to get to 10, hope 20% is better, minimum
Mm.
10%. There's no reason that a deal can't be found. But if you can't, if you're FHA 3.5%, do not just wait, save your money.
So explain, because you've said FHA a couple times. Explain kind of the different loans. So FHA is what?
Well, it's a program that's federally insured, where you only have to put a small percent down, but then you have mortgage insurance, private mortgage insurance, PMI. Okay,
Oh,
but the down payment is so low. That's because there's this extra insurance feature and the government's promoting people getting into housing that they can't afford. You
I
know,
got it.
okay, that's why FHA defaults are on the rise because it's you should have to put more than a security deposit down to own a property, because owning a property, you're writing money pit checks, if not now, 5 years, 10 years, the roof, 15 years.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
You got to have a lot of disposable income. It shouldn't be
Yeah.
just like you're a glorified renter, but that's what's
Yeah.
happening with these things. So, but most people are trying to put the least money down to control the most house. But I would say in most markets, um, just be patient. Actually, there's more things you could put your money in to grow. Uh, and we're about ready to probably hit the crescendo before the end of the year in the crypto market. There's gold and silver that's starting to. There's a lot of ways. If I just had a little bit of money and wanted it to go a long way, there's other things I would invest in while I'm waiting for real estate to correct, because it will. And just think about all these boomers. Guess what? In the next 10 years, most of them are going to be dying,
Yeah.
leaving their properties to their kids who is going to sell, and the birth rate's down. So who's going to buy? Who's going
Yeah.
to buy all these properties? And unless we have a paradigm shift, and it's the rapture, unless there's something big that happens, or we get some new financial system, which is possible, It just doesn't make sense to try to, I don't know. I would tell my kids not to. If I get them in with owner financing and, yeah, I'll do that. But
Mm-hmm.
because I know how to work the business from the front door and the back door and how it plays out over the years. But here I will say one thing is that there's a benefit to buying with owner financing, borrowing someone's equity. There again, that's the money that's trapped inside the house, that you will never have if you get a bank loan. And that is, did you know that banks sell their loans on the secondary market? Like they
Yep.
originate them, then they sell them, and then they sell them again. And you could get a different servicer.
Yep.
When you have,
We've had ours sold.
okay, so that happens in the private market too. There's a secondary market for notes. So if someone lends you their equity and they have a note and a deed of trust or a mortgage and they're receiving payments from you, if they die, their kid's probably going to want to sell that note. Or if they need cash for some reason, little Johnny's going to college, or I need a new car, or medical bills, whatever it is. Instead of $1,000 a month, I'd rather have 100,000 in my bank right now. So what they'll do is they'll sell that cash flow annuity stream to someone else. And if you're the buyer, you say, I want, if you ever decide to sell this, you or your heirs, I'd like a crack at buying my own note at the same price you would offer to anybody else.
Oh,
That never happens if you get a bank loan.
okay.
On the house that I'm living in now, that you normally see my normal background, not this one,
Mm-hmm.
that saved me $105,000
Yeah.
because the note was only worth 50 cents at the time she wanted to sell it. And I said, you should not sell it. You're going to take too big of a discount. I don't care. I have brain cancer. I'm dying.
Oh,
I want to sell. And so I got the right to buy it at the same price the other people would offer. So it's not like I bought my own note. I got a short refinance, right? She says, okay, you owe this much, but I'm willing to take this much and release the deed. That is
wow.
secret sauce that nobody ever sees. And you can't guarantee that's going to happen,
Yeah.
but you can position yourself for life-changing little hacks by just doing the mom and pop thing. And she was happy receiving the payments because I gave her more than her next best cash price. I gave her 50,000 more or so, 25 to 50,000 more than the next guy because I said, I love this property. I don't
Yeah.
know, I want to live here, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, okay. And so she got the highest price, paid no commissions. She got a monthly payment, no management, just automatic money in the bank. And she would have been happy
Wow.
until she got that brain cancer thing. So I'm just saying that there's ways to position that it's not like you're taking advantage of anyone. It's not unfair. It's just understanding the nuances that can be so powerful. Let's marry the old boomers who don't want to manage and the young people who need a break. It is great. It's a marriage made in heaven as long as there's a few, things handled there. Um, what else? I get off on my tangents.
No, I love that. That's awesome.
Does that make sense? Like what other
I
questions?
mean, yeah, it's obviously way over my head, but it's starting to make, I mean, I've never heard of that. I've never considered that. And then the other thing that you keep talking about is you kind of talk about it as you know, I love this property. And it's funny because when people are looking for a house, they're not thinking, because I can tell your brain is an investment because you call it a property, you don't call it a home, you know? So when my husband and I were looking for a house, we were looking for our dream home, but you kind of have a different mentality. You're looking at it as either we could love it forever or we could, use it for what it would be good for and then, do something else with it. You're not like stuck in this property. You're not stuck in this home that you might not like or it might not work for you in the future. You have a lot of options.
Yeah, well, I actually do have to love. I didn't actually when I bought it, it was not going to be my home.
That's what
After
I'm talking about.
after our divorce, it became clear that was my home.
And
Oh,
that's how it changed.
and then it went from an investment, like a secondary house, I don't know, Airbnb down the road or something. Even a wedding, we could have turned it into a wedding venue or something. All of a sudden, it's like, nope, this is my home. Um, but it doesn't matter because, especially, let's say, let's pretend like she didn't have me, so, and I would have been happy paying the extra price because she gave me 30 years at 3.5%. Okay, so that's better than any bank.
Yeah,
What happens if I get married again and I move? I don't know. I don't want. I'm not gonna. Okay, that would be hard for me to believe
never
right
say
now.
never.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But what if now, if I've got existing 3.5% financing already in place, don't you think I could say, hey, you're going to pay me this price, you're going to put this much down, and then I'm going to carry the balance at 5%. Still a great rate for them, but I'm making a spread on top of the other money I have. So I'm making an investment by doing someone a favor. You see what I mean? It just
Yeah,
gives you, it doesn't mean it's going to work out this way. It just gives you options. And it was a great deal for her. No commissions, fast sale, highest possible price. She got the money she needs up front. She got money she needed every month.
yeah, that's awesome.
Right. And so and secured, okay, at the time, CDs weren't even paying 3.5% back then. Maybe one. She could have made maybe 1% on those funds if she would have got the cash anyway. But this way she's making a lot of interest, right?
Yeah,
She would have made 2 to 3 times the value of the property if she would have just kept collecting the payments. Right. So your dad, whatever the house is worth, he could, maybe I don't know how long he has to go, but if he were to hold it for 20 years, if he was going to last 20 years more, I mean, he would get double for the property over time,
hmm,
right? So it's just about just this is the greatest secret in real estate is owner financing, whether you're selling or buying. And that's what I'm trying to change. I don't want it to be the best kept secret. It's good for me because there's not a lot of competition. But
yeah.
me, when realtors don't even know, or they let client, their seller client do owner financing, and then they don't even tell them, hey, by the way, did you know the way we're putting this note together could make or save you tens or maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Oh, by the way, did you know someone might want to buy that? They don't have no clue. You know how something that would make or save someone tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, don't you think some professional would give their client a heads up?
You'd hope so.
No, they don't. So they find out, okay, well, I did owner financing because the property wasn't selling. And so I was willing to do this, but they have no idea. 6 to 8 weeks after the closing, it's recorded in public record. People in my industry, they get those lists, they start writing them postcards and letters. Hey, you want to sell your note? And they go, what? What are you talking about? This a thing? Like someone wants to buy my note? And then they go, oh, I wonder what someone would pay for it. But by the time they're at that point, the value of the note is already locked in. So the thing that got me really charged up early on in my career was someone who brought me a note, $100,000 note, almost exactly, on a property. He sold it maybe for 200,000, took 100 down, and carried $100,000 loan. And he asked his realtor, do you think there's anyone that could like help us put this deal together? Like help us figure out how to do the owner financing and create the note in the right way. And his realtor says, no, I don't know anything like that. So basically they stumbled through it with whatever the title company was willing to do or put together. But normally if that note would have that receivable, that annuity, when I say note, it's like the same thing as loan. It's the same thing as paper. Like your loan documents, they're on paper, so it's the paper business, right? So that note, that loan, normally if it was in good shape, maybe you could pay 85,000 for it, 85,000. If it's, at the worst, 50%, I can give you 50,000 for that $100,000 balance, because those payments aren't going to be received for a long time. It's not like I'm going to get that 100,000 all. But in this case, I couldn't buy it at all. He was desperate for money, and I could not give him a dime for it, because there were errors and omissions that made it where if the guy quit paying, I couldn't have foreclosed and got my money out. There was just, so I go, that is like, people need to figure out, this is costing them tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, not understanding that, yeah, seller financing is brilliant, but go in with your eyes wide open, and don't be surprised, getting a postcard in the mail going, this is the thing. I wonder how much my note's worth. It's like, then you're just playing the lottery at that point.
Yeah.
If people go in, whether they're buying or selling, if you go in with the eyes wide open and with intentional planning, it just makes a huge difference in the financial outcomes for people. And if people don't use owner financing and they sit on the market and prices go down 50% over the next 4 years, they're losing money there too. I mean, there's a risk of doing something and there's a risk of not doing something.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense? What have I
Yeah.
said that seems like a little confusing? Where would are the what terms am I using that are a little like really?
Well, there's quite a few, but the more you talk, the more I start to understand it. Like when you just said a note is a loan, I was like, okay, because I was like, is that something special other than, but it's just the loan. And then sometimes when you talk about the equity, you're doing something with the equity. I don't quite understand that part. Like
Yeah,
what's
so and I have a great little 4-minute video on YouTube just about this thing where basically I Erin, if you needed $100,000 to buy a piece of property, my property, let's say I'm going to sell you a property. If I was going to just make you a loan, because sometimes people think seller financing means the seller's just going to like fund my loan. But why would I take money out of my bank account to lend it to you so that you can then buy my property? Let's say I own that, no bank loan, I own that property free and clear. So I have $100,000 of equity. That's value. That's my dollars. They're not in my bank account. It's the value, the dollars stuck inside my house, 100,000. That's what I'm going to loan to you. If I loaned you the money from my bank account, that's a loan. And so I would get a note, a promissory note, and a security instrument. If you don't make the payment like you promised, I'm going to take the property back.
okay.
It's the same thing. If I lend you my equity, I still get the exact same note, promissory note, and security instrument, right? Because if you don't pay me my equity, so dollars in the bank is treated in this business the same way as equity.
Equity.
They
Okay.
both represent dollars. One's in your bank account, you could write a check. The other's stuck inside your property. And I can say, you give me $10,000, I will loan you this equity. You give me 10,000 and $1,000 per month, and we're good.
Okay.
Right? But you end up with the same exact documents. Or if a hard money lender, same exact documents. A bank, same exact documents. But in this case, the seller's the lender. There's no bank, there's no third party, there's no hard money broker. There's just one mom and pop to another, a buyer, a seller, someone who needs cash flow. They need to get their price. They need to move quick. But they actually people don't know that they will do it until a buyer usually asks them to do it.
That's what,
So
because I'm like, well, I wouldn't even know what to do if someone approached me like that. I'd be like, what?
So then you'd start asking, like, but I can pay you 50,000 more for your property and pay no commissions, and you'll get this much per month, and blah blah blah. Then you just go, who's my trusted advisors? And hopefully they will tell you this is not illegal. This is
Yeah.
perfectly normal. But I will tell you, most attorneys, CPAs, all of that, their job is to CYA. Their job is to say no, because then you can never accuse them of, well, you said I should do this, blah 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 blah. So sometimes they get in the way, but it's not illegal. In fact, people can ask Chat GPT.
Yeah.
It's a very well-known, decades-long strategy that's been lost in our addiction to Wall Street, addiction to these institutions that are way far away from our own communities, that siphon wealth away from us.
Yeah.
We keep the
And
money in our own communities, one person to another. There's not this middleman, like, I don't know. There's not the middleman, just like a credit card. They steal the money away, and they don't care. And
they don't
also,
care about you at all. That's the thing I think people are realizing. Banks don't care about you. They don't care about your loan. They don't care if you've been working in the same community for 40 years. They don't care if you have kids. They don't care about anything. It's
no,
all like a game on paper to them, and they're gonna win. So, yeah,
yeah, but when you have a real person with a heartbeat on the other side,
yeah,
they work with you. When I make loans, someone's having a hard time, like, as long as it's legit and they stay in contact with me and we have a plan, and they do what they say they're gonna do, I'm not going to take someone's house from them. Why do I want another homeless person on my street? How much is that going to cost me? That's the
yeah,
invisible cost that we have when we're disconnected from each other. When I'm loaning money or carrying back paper, that's what they call it, carrying back paper, like doing the owner financing, because you're taking a note, trading your real estate for a paper, a note, and a deed of trust, right? So I care about that person. So I want them to do well. So I hire them for side jobs because I want them to do well, because then they can pay me. Oh, where does he work? I'm going to shop at that place. So that guy does well. So we can keep paying the salary. So then you're all invested in each other doing well. And it sounds a little kind of kumbaya in a way,
yeah,
but but these are the types of more whole systems that actually benefit, because you
yeah,
get these people sending money off to Wall Street. What if they crash the market again?
yeah,
What you gonna do? People still want to live in a house. They don't get tired of living in houses.
yeah,
And you know what? If they can't pay you that month, I had a guy where I traded him a shotgun. He couldn't pay me that month, but he says, "Here, I got this, blah blah blah." I go, "I'll take it. That'll do for 1 month. It won't work forever." Or I can trade. Oh, what can you do for me? Then we get into this barter system. Talk about if everything goes crazy. It's nice to have people who can support each other. I know you're growing apples over there. I know I know you're good at this. There's a lot of ways to exchange value, but that's getting a little down into the weeds. But um, I don't know. So thank you for having the chat. I would love any other feedback or clarity.
yeah.
Is there
I
anything
mean,
else?
there's just so much knowledge there. So, there's just so much to learn. So I think I'm just gonna have to plug into some of your programs more and get my
Well,
husband's the brains of this organization, so I'll have to have him watch it because he'll understand more.
the beauty and the brawn. Okay, yeah, no, but the idea is, like, we don't have to know how electricity works. Just have to know that there's a switch somewhere.
Yeah,
What I really want people to know is just know that there's the banks say no, or you think that you're priced out of the market, or you think you can't move, or you think you're stuck, but you're not. Well, maybe you are. There's some people I can't help. Can't help
yeah,
in every situation, but just know there's another way. There's another way to think about it, and both short and long term positioning can be very advantageous, very advantageous, and advantageous, advantageous. Uh, anyhow, but well, thanks for the time.
Yeah, thanks for talking with me. I think that this information is so valuable, especially with the generation coming up, because they can't do things the same way. The way that we've been doing it isn't working anymore. And I think people are really realizing that. They're realizing it with medicine, they're realizing it with marketing, they're realizing it with how they're running their lives, they're realizing it with jobs. And so it makes sense that the younger people now are now realizing that those big banks that used to do the old loans for everybody and you just do this step A, B, C, that's not working anymore either. It's not working. So they need more information on how to navigate something that's changing, and then bringing back stuff that works, that doesn't need to feed them big pockets anymore. So thanks so much for putting this information out, and I hope that you continue to educate people and help them out because it's super important for what everybody's going through right now.
Thank you. I agree. So that's why I got to quit kind of hiding and just kind of step out and go for it.
Yeah, I agree. I think you should start spreading your wings, Dawn.
Yeah, well, Erin, it's been a pleasure. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.